RX7600 reviews are now live, much to the chagrin of a lot of GPU reviewers who were kind of blindsided with a 0-hour price change after videos had already been cut and benchmarked and opinions had been formed. Not exactly the way to endear yourself, although a price cut is still a price cut. But Radeon RX7600 review is out. Another mid-tier graphics card. This one clocking in at $269 officially. And was originally supposed to come out at $299 or $329. I can't exactly remember which.
Yeah, I think it said $299.
Yeah.
Or I think it was $329. Then they said $299,
and then they said $269,
and then Intel released theirs, and they were like, "Oh, watch us!" Like a couple days prior.
Right, exactly.
Or Nvidia, not Intel. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, mid-tier graphics cards starting to come back, starting to, we're finally back into the 200s. I'd really like to see us get back into the 100s for some graphics cards. But hey, at least the 600 series cards are not $600 anymore. Like, there is a little bit of a reprieve from the previous couple years. But are we getting the things that we should be getting? Or has the market demand exceeded what is being delivered? There's a lot to unpack with performance metrics around the 7600. Obviously, it is far and away better than what we had been seeing price to performance wise from the 3060 series of cards. In fact, left the 3060 and 3060 Ti in the dust in most cases. Most cases, I'll touch on that. And is a nice return to an affordable price point. Like, this is where most people shop for their graphics cards at. This is why the GTX 1060 and whatnot was the premier graphics card on Steam hardware surveys. Still is in most cases, because it's $240 to $280. Like, this is where people can afford to spend their money at. Not everyone has 4090 money, or 4070 money, or 4060 money. So it is nice to see, competition kind of returning to this space, especially with Intel sitting right there at, $290 to $350 for their A770 card. And that was a card that benchmarked surprisingly well, with some driver performance tweaks being made over the last year or so. But RX7600 and this last week, the 4060 Ti, both launched to kind of meh receptions. And I believe Hardware Unboxed put it most accurately. He tweeted out, large, full scope of GPU reviews over the last year. 4090 smiley face. Everything else got 3 poo emojis. and that is kind of the case, because it seems to be a lot of performance at the high end and nothing else for anyone else. No meaningful improvements from anything else. And in fact, there are instances of the 6650 XT, the last generation card, which this one should handily replace, beating it in some benchmarks, beating the new card in some benchmarks. We've got instances of the 4060 Ti being introduced, and while it's definitely an upgrade from, say, the 2060 and 2060 Super, having a cut down 128-bit bus for your memory means that bandwidth intensive applications, especially professional applications or games that rely on some modern features like resizable bar, not performing as well, especially as the 8 GB buffer runs out of room. And so kind of to bring us back around is we're yet again getting a $250, $300 graphics card with 8 GB or potentially even less of video memory, when some of the higher end modern 1080p titles, especially ports that come from consoles which have 10 GB and 16 GB of unified memory between both the Xbox Series One X and the PS5, they're expecting more at this point in time. And 8 GB, sure, like if you're upgrading from a 1080, the 7600 or the 4060 Ti, probably pretty solid performance upgrades for you. But the 1080 also had 8 GB of video memory and was a dominant 1080p and 1440p player in its day 7 years ago. But
no,
we need more memory today. We really do. And I've thought so many times about trying to do a video on this subject, and saying, is the outcry accurate? Like, do we actually need 8 GB of video memory? Should we expect mid-range 60 series cards to play every single game at 1080p ultra settings at above 60 FPS? And should we expect that the video memory that comes on those cards is enough to play 1080p at ultra settings across every game? Or are our expectations for performance unreasonable? Should we be holding devs to the fire to say, number one, reduce file size, number two, reduce texture size, maybe give us some install options for people that aren't going to play these games at 4K ultra settings, you know, the Fallout 4s and the, you know, games like that of the universe that require you to install 4K texture packs, and so you're installing 120 GB worth of game when you're going to be playing it on a Steam Deck. You know, there's so much that's going into modern game performance, and the higher end you get in specs, the more things you have to keep in mind, and who's being realistic and who's not, or are both sides being unrealistic?